Directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and Andrew Guest, Wonder Man premieres on Disney Plus Tuesday, January 27th. I got the lucky opportunity to check it out much earlier, and let's get into some thoughts on this. Wonder Man, overall, pretty decent. I was expecting a bit more, but for an origin story and for someone who not many people really know that much about, including myself, I knew about Wonder Man, but I didn't know exactly who he was, what he really could do. I just knew that he was very powerful and had a very interesting backstory. This approach to Wonder Man is pretty different than the comics, or at least somewhat different than the comics, because originally Wonder Man gets his powers from Baron Zemo. Simon Williams is in family industry. He owns a business and it's going under, and then he gets put in jail for embezzlement. The rival business is Tony Stark Industries, so obviously he's rivaling Iron Man. Baron Zemo somehow gets in contact with him and offers him an experiment, an opportunity to get some powers and get revenge on Iron Man for taking down his business and all of this stuff. So, you know, someone, when they're down on their luck, they're going to embrace certain things. Simon Williams obviously takes on this experiment, because why wouldn't you? Baron Zemo offers an antidote to on these fake experiments to, you know, just kind of keep him on a fake dependency, so that he feels like he needs Baron Zemo, so Baron Zemo can kind of control him in a way. He undergoes these experiments with Baron Zemo with ionic energy and radiation, so Simon Williams ends up getting superhuman strength, durability, energy projection, superhuman healing, all of these things. Like, he becomes exceedingly powerful. So once he gets these powers, he kind of infiltrates the Avengers and gets in there to kind of eventually betray them or turn on them and take them out. But while he's with the Avengers, he realizes their heroism. He realizes how true they are and how good they are. So he has a change of heart. He actually genuinely joins them, not just to get revenge, but he realizes, oh, this is stupid. Like, these are good people. What happened to me just happened, but like, these are good people. He ends up joining them, and then something happens, and he unfortunately perishes while with the Avengers. So in the comics, his brother is very upset with that, because they already had a sibling rivalry, but now his brother is dead because of the Avengers, he thinks. So he ends up becoming a villain called the Grim Reaper, which we'll get much more into later on. He's later on revived after this whole shabacle with him perishing with the Avengers. He's later on revived and learns to control his powers, and has he's a lot more in tune, and realizes he doesn't really need an antidote, and realizes how powerful he actually is. He rivals a lot of people in Marvel Comics. He is very, very powerful. So it's pretty dope that he is finally introduced in the MCU. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, man, I gotta give it to him. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, I've got to give it to him. He was impressive. Even though the series was just a slightly lackluster for me, just because it was building on itself, right? Like, there's world building, there's character building, and it was a little slower than I expected, which is fine. You know, not everything can be bam, boom, pow, kicking, you can't do that all the time. I just expected just a little bit more from this series, especially because I was checking it out early, almost a month early. I was expecting, all right, let's go. And even though it was slightly lackluster, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Ben Kingsley did a phenomenal job. That is a dynamic duo that I did not expect, that I didn't know that we needed. Of course, Ben Kingsley reprises his role as Trevor Slattery, and they reference the Mandarin in this, you know, not to give too many spoilers, but they do reference the Mandarin, and that does play a decent role later on in the series. So in this, Simon Williams, he's already an actor, whereas in the comics, once he's revived and he comes back and he has full control of his powers, and, you know, he went through the whole thing with the Avengers, then he actually truly joins the Avengers as one of them, and then pursues a career in acting. Whereas in this, we start off and he's already pursuing a career in acting, and he is this dedicated actor who's kind of particular and wants things a certain way. Even if it's a big opportunity or one of the biggest roles, he still has to input his own 2 cents, which can be a good thing or also a bad thing. You know, we'll leave that for the viewers to decide once the series comes out. Demetrius Gross plays Eric Williams, his brother. I am very curious to see how they do the whole Grim Reaper thing from the comics, because his brother's supposed to be super villainous. And I mean, based off this series, you know, my girl and I, we were watching this and we're like, yeah, we hate this guy. Like, the brother is just so, he's just so up Simon's butt and so arrogant. And I get it. On the one hand, you're pursuing this career in acting where you need another job to supplement you. You can't just go all in, but at the same time, with certain things, you have to go all in, otherwise you won't be successful. So it's a two-way street, right? Instead of just like supporting him but still offering constructive criticism, his brother just seems to be very, very, very negative towards him and a little bit resentful, if you will. I can 100% see the villainous arc coming, but with the whole aspect behind how it happens, I'm just curious to see how they unfold that. We have Byron Bowers, who is in one of the episodes titled Doorman, and in the comics, DeMar Davis, he gains these abilities to, in essence, open up portals within himself and be able to travel through walls and create doorways. So that's why they call him Doorman. But the way how this happens, it's just like a random episode in the series. You don't really expect it. It just kind of pops up, and you're like, oh, what is this? Who is this? I did like it though because of the different aspect and different tone of the filming of that episode, and the whole series itself was filmed in a certain way and acted in a certain way that seems very, as you know, a lot of people online will call it, and I called it earlier, a little bit meta or just newer age. That's one thing that I can praise and respect about this series. Zlatko Buric, did I say that right? Zlatko Buric. That doesn't sound like I said it right, but here we go. He plays director Von Kovac. Also, it plays in Superman in the DC world, and he is like the leader of Baravia, working with Lex Luthor. So, and he looks like he has the same haircut too, so it kind of works out. I did like his character in this as well. He's this very interesting director. He seems like a in nowadays like a James Cameron or maybe like a Steven Spielberg, if you will, but a little less likable, depending on who you ask, because apparently James Cameron is hard to work with, but I mean, he's successful for a reason. I like the dynamic that they bring in here with the acting, auditions, and working directly with this director and seeing Simon interact. And I just wish that there was a little bit more showcase of his powers, truly. There's times where we get nods to it, but I really wish that there was true showcasing of the powers more than what we get. Now, that's not to say that the series is bad by any means. It's just it was a little bit cut and dry, and it didn't fall flat on its face, but it kind of led you in a little bit, and then once you got there, it just kind of dropped, and you're like, oh well, that's what we got. I expected, okay, that's cool, but I just wish there was a little bit more. I wish there was a little bit more fleshed out. I wish we saw a little bit more. The one thing that I will say is a big negative for me is how short these episodes are. And I get it. It's an origin story. It's a new series. But man, these episodes, the shortest episode is like 23 minutes. The longest one is like 34 minutes, and that's including credits. With something like this, with a different kind of backstory, with a different hero that obviously people know about from the comics, but it's not very mainstream, like a Thor or an Iron Man or a Spider-Man or a Venom or something like that. So you kind of have to give a little bit more to keep people invested, especially nowadays. It sucks to say that, but it's just the truth, especially with film, TV, movies, all of that. You kind of have to give a little bit more in order for people to be a little bit more invested. So as I said, overall, I did enjoy the series. I'm probably going to rewatch it before my screening is up for it, and I will do probably a spoiler on this after it's been out for a little bit, so people have a chance to watch it and catch up and decide for themselves what they really thought. It was somewhat disappointing just because I wish that we would have seen a little bit more from Wonder Man himself, but there's got to be a reason for that. Maybe in season 2 we will see a little bit more of some of the comic aspect of Wonder Man and some of that origin as well, even though we already see him established with his powers and everything, and he doesn't seem to want to use them or showcase that, especially after a certain episode. You see why, especially him going into acting and him being super abled, why he kind of hides it. I gotta give Yahya Abdul and Ben Kingsley props, man. They carried that series. Granted, it was centered mainly around them, but they really carried it the whole time. If it wasn't for the two of them and their chemistry and the comedic relief and how they presented themselves, it would have been absolutely terrible, in my opinion.
Are you gonna use super speed or what?
I'm gonna use my car, Trevor.
Does that mean you do or do not have super speed? Let's go!
The dynamics with the family and the change of heart with certain people, it was good to watch. It was a decent time to watch. It was fun to watch. Just a little disappointing, but I am hopeful for the future of this series. I am hopeful for the second season. If we get a second season, I don't see why we wouldn't, but you never know with shows nowadays. I'm hopeful that we will get a lot more and dive more into like the Avengers aspect, especially how this year we have Avengers Doomsday coming out December 18th. I can assume that something somewhere is going to pertain to Wonder Man, because everybody that's already in the Avengers Doomsday cast with the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, the X-Men, the Young Avengers. I mean, I'm hoping that they kind of introduce a West Coast Avengers kind of thing. Hint, hint, hint. You know, Midnight Suns. Hint, hint. You know, who knows? Who knows? The possibilities are endless. Early screening of Wonder Man was a decent time to watch. Just a little bit lackluster, a little bit disappointing, but that doesn't mean that the series is bad. It just left a lot to be desired. That's all. So thank you for joining me. It is much appreciated. You know the drill. Hit that like button and that subscribe button and the bell next to it, and leave a comment down below. As I said, once the series is out, I will do a full spoiler video on talking about things pertaining to the comics and the things that happened in the series, and where I think that they could have done a little bit more to help out with the story and getting people a little bit more involved. Thanks again for watching. Until the next one.